So what was your biggest surprise on Thursday?
Low-hanging fruit, but I just think it's the obvious one. But I have an opposite opinion than most people, and that was Michael Penix Jr. to Atlanta. And I know most people really shot that down. They don't like the pick. They think, well, you got Kirk Cousins. The way I saw that is the Falcons, they're not worried about this season. They're building a team. If you look around pro sports right now, the building teams, the building franchises, those are the teams that are winning. The superstars, the individual guys that have average teams or not good teams are not winning. You have to build. I think this is smart for the future. I agree with the soundbite from the GM sitting there with his head coach. But I like this pick because I like the ideology of it. You've gone young at receiver recently. You've gone young at running back with Bijan Robinson. But you are throwing out this mid-30-year-old guaranteed $1 million of $180 million quarterback out there. You better have some insurance. If you love this class as much as people do, then go get one of these guys now. All these guys aren't going to start opening day. All these quarterbacks are not starting opening day. Somebody's going to have to sit. I'm not sure who it is, but there's going to be somebody that has to sit. But if you love a guy.
I know who it's going to be. It's going to be Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, well, of course, Michael Penix Jr. will be sitting. But I do like the fact you put him behind a professional veteran. You put him in a city that's going to embrace him. You put him with a team that's got some young offensive weapons that you've been building over the last few years. And what if Kirk doesn't come back? Then you got a guy that you trust, a guy you evaluated, a guy you got they've done their job. They've had him in, you poke and prod, you go through the pre-draft process and the draft process. He was sitting there for them. That's who they wanted. If they wanted to take somebody else, they would have. I know that shocked everybody, but I like the fact that they're looking ahead and they're not winning nothing now. So why would you try to go grab a guy that can help you? There's not a guy that would help Atlanta win now, but there might be a guy that can help Atlanta win down the road in building a team with these young pieces that they've accumulated over the last 2 seasons. So I like the pick. It was surprising. It was like bleep, but then it set in like, you know what? I like this, though. I see where they're going, and I like this. So that was mine.
Yeah, it was by far, to me, not only the worst pick of the draft, but it's logically.
Who do you take if you're there?
It is logically. Well, if I'm going to take one of these quarterbacks in the top 10, I'm not paying Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed, $150 over 3 years. Like, that's not a bridge quarterback salary. That's a guy you expect to come in and start and make a significant impact on your roster. You say, who could they have drafted? Well, I don't have the list in front of me of who they should have drafted, right? You know what I'm saying? In terms of, but somebody who's going to see the field this year. When you draft a guy in the first round, you're expecting him to step in and start to play, right? And the only real exception in that list is quarterback, right? Whereas sometimes down the line, you'll see a guy now, of course, I can't think of any, but the guys who started, they didn't start immediately and end up coming in, week 6 or week 7 or week 8, after they get a little bit more acclimated to the NFL, right? And a little acclimated to quarterback life. We've seen guys like C.J. Stroud, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert wasn't slated to end up starting with Tyrod Taylor, got punctured in the lung. Boom. Now, all those guys, but they're in there immediately, right? Mm-hmm. If you are the Atlanta Falcons, either you sign Kirk Cousins to $100 million guaranteed, or you draft a quarterback. But spending $140 million in the quarterback position right now makes no sense, right? If you say they're a team that's not going to win anyway. Well, if you're not going to win anyway, then you shouldn't. I mean, first of all, it was questionable in the first place to sign Kirk Cousins to $100 million guaranteed at 36 years old coming off of an Achilles tendon injury. There's no guarantee that he's going to be the player that he was even in his career, which, mind you, that's one playoff win in the entirety of his career.
Okay, so then can I argue, though, that, fine, maybe they thought this, but free agency comes way before the draft. What if I can argue that, okay, maybe they're realizing that might have been a mistake, but now you got to go get a quarterback now just in case. Maybe we should have thought of it better. But we're going to make a decision now. We can't compile it. We can't double up on a bad decision and take a receiver right here and Kirk Cousins goes down. So now who's throwing to this receiver that you drafted in the first round?
Listen, if that's the case, if you thought that Kirk Cousins was going to ostensibly, like the outline you just said, if you thought he was going to fail, then don't sign him.
No, not initially. Not initially. But I'm kind of agreeing with you, but just giving a different view from, okay, they made a mistake. What if they, like I said, what if they're sitting in the rooms and go, you know what, God, we blew that. We blew signing Kirk Cousins to this money. So we might need to pivot. It'd be better to pivot right now than try to pivot later. We shouldn't have signed them, and we should have evaluated these quarterbacks. But we still got to. But now we got to go get one.
Okay, but then my question: if I'm Arthur Blank, who we saw in the war room having a conversation,
right.
My question is: what in God's green earth could have possibly changed on April 25th? Than it did from when was it March whatever?
It's
when
like
they
March 13th, or when you can start to sign.
So
free agency,
what on God's green earth changed?
That's 6 weeks,
in
man.
the 6 week period in between Kirk coming down here, in which, mind you, VJ, they have a whole investigation out about the way it was done.
Yeah,
right. In terms of the tampering,
I saw.
So not only did you go get him, you probably went a little too early in having a conversation to go get him. To just turn around and draft Michael Penix. Like it
makes sense to me, man.
It makes
sense to me because I'm giving
this is
them,
saying 2 + 2 is 5.
No, it's
this
saying
is saying
that
the sun rises in the west.
No, it's saying that they might have realized they made a mistake, Martin. So this draft pick is to try to rectify now than going through this season.
I hear that
and missing out on one of these quarterbacks. Everybody loves this class.
I hear what you're saying in terms you might have made a mistake there, but. You saw the wire, like Slim Charles said. If it's a lie, then we fight on that lie.
We fight on that lie.
Because you gotta turn around
lie.
And answer to your to not only the ownership base, but also your fan base. Yeah. You just signed your quarterback of the future. If you don't feel like he's your quarterback of the future, you can't pay him that much money. You just can't do it.
You're right, but I think at the time they signed him, I think they felt he was.
So this is the difference between what Minnesota did and what Atlanta did. Minnesota signs J.J. McCarthy, drafts J.J. McCarthy, but they already have their bridge quarterback. They have a potential day one starter in Sam Darnold. Right? Now, is he going to start? I don't know. Like, does he have a leg up in this moment? I think probably, right?
We'll does see, right now.
But it's way too early on April 27th to say who's going to win the position battle.
Yeah.
But the point of the matter is you'll have a position battle because Sam Darnold is making peanuts.
Yeah.
In comparison, Sam Darnold is getting paid like a safety, okay?
You don't think they'll give Penix a chance to win the job?
I mean, when you're in training camp, when players are sitting there watching, we've seen it before where Matt Flynn got signed to the big deal and Russell Wilson was tearing him up.
Could you imagine that if Penix got named a starter? Outplayed Kirk Cousins in preseason?
First of all,
Kirk's leg wasn't ready yet?
First of all, yes, I can imagine it, which is why I said who would sign Kirk Cousins to $100 million guaranteed? He's 36.
So then can I say then the pick was right then, right?
No, because, all right, so I'm not, okay. One of two has to be wrong.
Okay.
That's what one of two has to be wrong, right? Either you draft the quarterback or you sign the free agent quarterback to $100 million and you then draft somebody along the way who is going to see the field for you year one. The best case scenario of this is Michael Penix, who finished out of his 5 college seasons, 4 of them on the injured reserve list.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Is that Michael Penix sees the field year 3 at earliest?
I think he sees it before then. I do.
That's the best case scenario.
Okay.
That's if Kirk plays well. It's just if you thought that Kirk Cousins was going to be so bad, that think about the other teams that drafted a first round quarterback.
Yep.
All right, Denver. What did they do? They traded away Russell Wilson. Got Zach Wilson. The Jets had to be like, no, please, we'll give you Zach Wilson and a 7th rounder, okay? Just get him off of our books, all right? Then you have the Bears. They traded away Justin Fields. You have the Patriots. They traded away Mac Jones. Who else am I thinking of? You had the Commanders. Where's Sam Howell?
Yeah.
He ain't a Commander no more. Like, you cannot in a salary cap sport. If this was baseball, sure, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, why not sign all three of the best, like all three first basemen, and see if one can play the outfield, see if one, and move one around. Yeah, but this is football. There's only one quarterback on the field at a time, and you're not using Michael Penix to return kicks.
This is going to be an interesting storyline all off season, along with what's going on in Pittsburgh with their quarterback. Was it like the quarterback ruled the weekend, and it's going to rule the off season talk until we kick off in September? I cannot freaking wait.